You are listening to a Called Collective podcast where we seek to equip the next generation of ministry leaders. The Called Collective produces multiple podcasts, which you can find in the description below. To learn more about the Called Collective, visit our website at thecalledcollective.org or check us out on Instagram at The Called Collective.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Coffee and Calling. I'm Levi.
And I'm Paula.
We are excited that you are listening back in this week.
Yeah, we're pumped.
We have a super cool guest with us today.
We do. She's cool because we get each other.
Why do you guys get each other, though?
We get each other because we're from the same state.
Whoa.
And people just don't get us
right.
otherwise.
It's like you guys are cooler than everybody else.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Okay,
yeah.
That's good. That's cool.
I'm just kidding, guys.
West side is the best side is what they say.
That is true.
West side of America is what they're always referring to.
That is true. Well, we have Abby with us. Abby, will you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do?
Yeah. Hi, guys. My name's Abi Hume. I guess I'm starting my second semester at Indiana Wesleyan University this fall, but I am getting my master's in spiritual care.
Ooh.
So still brand new to the Midwest, like Paula said. I'm from Southern California, right outside of LA. So
Southern Cal, as they like to say.
SoCal.
SoCal. Exactly.
No one says that.
I'm not one of the cool ones like them.
That's okay.
But yeah, I did my undergrad at Azusa Pacific University. That's kind of close to Pasadena, right outside of Los Angeles. I did my undergrad in kinesiology.
Whoa.
So you might be asking how I ended up in Indiana studying theology, which is, I guess, going to be part of the whole story that
we'll get into that.
Yeah, those are a couple of things about me.
Do you have a job? Do you play sports? What are you up to?
I do not have a job currently. My job is school and sports. I'm on the track and field team at Indiana Wesleyan, so that has been super fun to be a part of.
What events?
I do high jump and triple jump.
Hey, we got bunnies in the crib.
What?
Bunnies.
You know when somebody?
Yes.
I've never heard that.
You know when somebody can jump really high, you say that they got bunnies because bunnies hop.
I thought you made that up.
No, that's a for real saying.
Funny. Okay, that's a phrase.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we like to ask some stupid questions.
All right,
Sometimes we
I'm
do,
ready.
sometimes we forget.
Yeah.
The question that I'd like to ask you today is if you had to pair up anyone in the Bible and make them a couple, who would you pair up? It can be anyone from any time period. But who would make the best couple?
I feel like I would need hours to ponder this.
Yeah. We've got all the time in the world.
Jeez.
Just a super long podcast that this takes up 80% of the podcast.
Huh. Do you have one that comes to mind? Where did this question come from? Have you spent time
Me and Paula have talked about this in length.
In length? Yeah, in length.
I mean,
just
it's hard to
brainstorm.
think of predominant women Bible characters because there's less of them.
Yeah,
so it's
that's what I'm thinking.
There's you have Esther.
I would love to use Esther, but I'm trying to.
You have Ruth, which is known for a love story. You have Phoebe,
Deborah, Mary Magdalene.
I say Magdalene. It's kind of a thing between me and Jesus that I like to mispronounce characters in the Bible.
That's okay. Hey, maybe you know better than we do. Maybe.
Then you have Sarah. You have
Leah,
Hagar,
Rachel.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Okay. Well,
Rahab.
There's a big place in my heart for Mary.
Which Mary?
Mary Magdalene.
Okay.
The Mary that had to be told to sit and not be working on her tasks and just sit at Jesus' feet. So is that
Martha?
So Martha's the one in trouble. Mary is the one that's sitting at the feet.
Okay, so it's Martha. I would like to use Martha.
Okay.
She's learning to wait, and I feel like I'm Martha a lot.
Oh.
Learning to wait and to just sit at Jesus' feet.
Let's go.
But who would I pair her up with? Who has that strength? Maybe who is a good waiter that could teach her how to just sit at Jesus' feet? Maybe Abraham. He had to wait a long time
He
for what he
did.
wanted.
That's
But I wouldn't want
true.
to separate
True.
him and Sarah.
That's so true.
This is a hard question.
It is.
I don't know if I could keep going.
That's okay.
I think that was a great
I love
great
it.
pair up.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I'd love to ship Abraham and Mary or Martha.
Martha.
Does this question like border heresy
Um,
at all?
If taken seriously, 100%.
Okay. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for your answer. I love it. Both learning patience.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so Abby, tell us a little bit about your calling story. So, how did you go from studying kinesiology? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
To being in the Midwest and studying theology and doing all the things that cool things that you're doing.
Yeah. Super wild. It's definitely a longer story that I can kind of try to wrap up and hit like the big points. But I guess I can start with, if anyone would have told me that I would be living in Indiana, running track and studying ministry with like the call to vocational ministry, I would have like laughed in your face when I was a kid. Because I grew up in the church and had parents that were super supportive, and I had the blessing of going to private Christian school my whole life, but I just would have never thought I would have had the call to go into ministry. But during my time at APU, I just kind of picked kinesiology because I loved sports and I wanted to stay in the sports world. But as I got deeper into that degree, I started doing an internship and was exposed to more of just the vocations that could come from that. And I just didn't have passion towards any of them. I loved sports. I could see myself coaching, but I did an internship at a PT clinic and I was like, geez, I don't know if I could do this. I looked at sports psychology. I just kind of like explored all of those and realized like I don't feel any passion or any calling towards any of these things. But I was like, in my senior year at APU, I don't even know what is my next step. I know that I have this eligibility from COVID. Like, I don't know what I want to do with it. But then there was a season in my life that was like pretty hard, and through that I felt the Lord tell me like, you need to go home and you need to start serving in your church. And it was a church that I'd grown up in. I'd like kind of dabbled in VBS a little bit, but nothing like seriously where I had stepped in and wanted to serve. And so it was a very like distinct call. I knew that the Lord was telling me to go and do that, but I didn't totally know why. And so I went home that summer and I just kind of walked right up to the woman that was like operations of middle school and high school ministries. And I just straight up told her, like, I know the Lord is calling me to be involved and to volunteer. Like, put me where you guys need it. I'm open to everything. And so I did a week of VBS, and then I did high school summer camp, middle school summer camp, and then weekly programming and Sundays with both of those ministries. And there was a couple of different moments where I just felt this passion towards students and towards discipling and mentoring young kids in their faith that I had not felt that type of passion towards something before. And that was when I kind of started to think, like, is this something that God could be calling me to do long term? Because they were just feelings and passions that I hadn't experienced anywhere else. And so I went back to APU my senior year. I knew that I was already too far into my kines degree to switch at that point. But I picked up a youth and family ministry minor and got into the classroom and realized that I loved learning about it as much as like getting to experience it. And then I was able to join basically Kern at APU, which is called Vocare. But it's just for students who feel like they're called to vocational ministry, giving them resources like a mentor, cohort, and classes that were kind of helping like straight shoot me into seminary. And so time with that mentor that I got was when I finally realized, like, I think that pursuing vocational ministry is what the Lord's calling me to and what I want to do. And so it was through those conversations. It was through conversations with students that summer. and seeing how the Lord used hard things that I had gone through, lessons that the Lord had taught me to impact their lives and to get to speak into their lives, when I just realized like this is giving me life and fulfillment and passion, something that I want to be able to do for the rest of my life. So that was kind of like short story of God calling me into ministry to do something, I never thought that I would be doing, and what ultimately led me to Indiana Wesleyan.
How did you get to Indiana Wesleyan? Like, did you hear about it before?
No, I didn't even know where Indiana was on a map.
That's hilarious.
But my mentor at APU within like our Vocare program, she knew Eddie super well, who runs Kern at Indiana Wesleyan. And so I remember sitting in her office when I first told her, like, I think I want to go to seminary. I want to pursue just another degree in like theology and ministry, because I knew that I wanted to be someone that was educated and ready to step into ministry with that background, because I had only like a minor at that point and a couple of classes under my belt. And I had this eligibility too. So it kind of felt like the Lord was like kind of putting all of these things together and just creating an opportunity for me to keep going to school. And so I knew that I needed to get out of California. I could feel like this push of needing something new. And so I sat down in her office, and she had gone to seminary at Princeton, and I just knew she was very like well known as like a woman in just kind of like the seminary world and knew the ins and outs. So I sat down, and I knew that she knew me and knew my strengths and just kind of like who I am. And I sat down and was like, where do you think I should go? Like, give me a list of schools to start looking at. I don't even know where to start. There's so many. And the first school that she said was, have you ever heard of Indiana Wesleyan? And I was like, no, I don't know where Indiana is on the map. But I remember her saying that and me laughing to myself and being like, not moving to Indiana. Like, what the heck?
Retweet, yeah.
And so she gave me a couple other schools to look at, but I remember going back to my apartment in Azusa, and I looked up the school. I looked up the programs that she was telling me about, and I just sent an email to the coach and was like, we'll see what happens. But there was a couple of things that needed to fall into place, which just kind of like further has to do with the story. But I was really praying that the Lord would give me confirmation in my next couple steps. Like, I knew that he was calling me to ministry, and kind of like the second big thing that I feel like, or the second big way I've experienced God's calling in my life was to move out to Indiana. And the call to be at IWU was so strong. There was like no way that I could say no to what the Lord was telling me to do. And so I was praying for this confirmation. I had this weird feeling about IWU and just kind of being like drawn to it for no reason, like being where I'm from and somewhere that like people would love to be out there and go to school and get to keep living there. But I really wanted to be in person. A lot of like seminaries or master's programs in ministry are all online. I wanted to be in person. I wanted to be on a track team where I knew my coaches were pursuing Christ, and where the team was bigger than just getting to compete, but was a family, and one that I knew was gonna push me spiritually in my relationship with Christ and with others. And just the idea of getting to be a part of Kern and be a part of a cohort with people that are my age, those were all things that I wanted, but I didn't know if there would be a school that would have all of those. And so when I was first looking at Indiana Wesleyan, I was looking at going to Wesley Seminary, but I wouldn't be in person. I couldn't live on campus. No one was really my age. Everyone was like kind of older, and just things with track looked different because I wasn't a part of the university. And so I remember my mentor set me up with a call with Eddie, and I remember right before the call, I was like, why am I talking to this guy? Like, what? I didn't really know, but I was like, I feel like I need to call him. So I called him, and it was like in the middle of summer. And he sold me on the spot. It was like, you get to live on campus.
Yeah.
You get to be a part of a cohort with people in your class. You're in-person classes. And I remember I just like broke down in tears after that call, because I had been praying for the confirmation of like the Lord kind of giving me one more, like, yes, I want you to take this like big leap of faith of moving to somewhere. Like, I didn't know where Indiana was. I didn't know anyone that lived in Indiana. I didn't know anyone at the school.
Yeah.
I didn't ever visit in person. I just like committed and was going to come out and see what was going to happen. And so I just remember the feeling of like, the Lord calling me to this school and it being very similar to the feeling of when he called me into ministry.
Yeah.
Just kind of like those, just something that I knew I couldn't say no to. Like I could so clearly see the Lord's hand in both of those callings on my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
The one thing I love about your story is that you just said yes to small things first. Like
Mm.
God just called you to serve in your local church. You said yes. You said yes to the next thing. You said yes to the next thing. And now you get to be entrusted with the vocational call of ministry. And like how you have not only just gained the trust of God, but you have taken the small things he's given you and you said yes every step of the way. Could you
Mhm.
talk to the listeners about just small steps of obedience and how they lead to where God has you going in life?
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think the decision of me like accepting the Lord's call in my life to vocational ministry and then the decision to move out to Indiana were two things that if you knew who I was before that, I would have never taken that risk. I would have never said yes. I would have never
Yeah.
opened myself up to even like allow myself to get out of my comfort zone. And so I think when it all started with just saying yes to get involved with the local church, I think that there were so many small things that the Lord, like he wasn't ever asking me to take these big leaps before he was lining up those little steps along the
Yeah.
way. And it was almost like he was gaining my trust back. Like
Yeah.
I knew that I could trust him in all of these small things as all of these things started lining up. And I know that people's stories don't always look like that. And I couldn't demand or like deserve those like little steps from God, but that was just the way that he worked in my story. And I think that he knew that I needed that because I was just a fearful person that didn't like being out of their comfort zone. And so for people that are also experiencing things like that, I would, just kind of repeat what you said, like not being afraid to say yes to the small things that you feel like the Lord's tugging on your heart. You'll know when it's something that the Lord is telling you to do because it's, like I said, it's something that you feel like you can't say no to. And even if you do say no for a little bit, which I've done a couple of times, like I think he just continues to tap you on the shoulder and just say, hey, this is something that I want you to do. And he'll use other people. There was a lot of other people that he used in my story. Just further affirmation and confirmation of like that I was doing the right thing. People that I told about like feeling this call into ministry and their responses were like further confirmation of like, I could see you doing that. Or I can see these gifts coming out in your life. I can see your heart for students. I can see your gifts in discipleship and mentoring. And so look out for the other people that the Lord might be using to just kind of like keep moving your feet forward in where he's calling you to be.
Yeah. That's why it's so important to have people around you who will speak life into you and like to have genuine friendships and to have like mentorships.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. I wish I had like a steady mentor in high school. I mean, I did for a little bit in the beginning of high school, but not like in the end when I was like needing that. And I think that's, that for me, that's like one thing I can recommend for students who are going into ministry is like get a mentor, get someone who sees you, knows you, and can speak life into you.
100%.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah, and it's not just support. It's not like, hey, I think I'm going to go into ministry. And they're like, yeah, thumbs up. It's like they actually say, I've seen this in you.
Yeah.
I've seen that you're super caring and relational and have a deep sense of empathy to where you have the relational skills to do ministry. Not just, yeah, that's great, good for you. And so speaking of advice that you would give to high schoolers who are either thinking about a call to ministry or have decided on it, what would be a little nugget of advice that you would give them?
I think there's a lot of things that come to mind, but I think one small thing would be to just be prayerful in that decision. And that comes along with surrounding yourself with people that are going to speak life into you, that are going to support you and have the important conversations that come with like the challenges of wanting to go into ministry. I don't think I was totally prepared for that, especially wanting to be a woman in ministry. It's so important to have that support of people that are next to you and are speaking life and helping like guide your steps. But also just being prayerful in that decision, lifting things up to the Lord, making it a conversation. I think it was a little easy in the beginning to kind of want to take the reins, want to just fight for control, because that's what I had done my entire life, wanting to know what was happening. But it was the moments that I reminded myself, the Lord reminded me to let go of it, to release my hands and to let him lead. That was the only way I would have ended up here.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to release that control and release like the dreams or the thoughts that I had for myself, but nothing could have ever amounted to where he's led me now.
Wow.
That is so good. That's a bar. You mentioned earlier talking about like you weren't sure like if it was, how do I phrase this? So you were talking about being passionate about youth ministry and like not being passionate about kinesiology, but what would you say for people who don't know if they're called into ministry, but they are passionate about ministry? Like, how do you differentiate between feelings and passions and then like a calling, if that makes sense? Because like you can feel really good and like love playing football, but are you necessarily called to the NFL? We don't know.
Right.
I'm not saying this about you specifically.
No, because she's saying that because I'm not good enough to play in the NFL, which is
not what
so
I'm
true.
Saying. No, but like that's just like 100%, an example.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, 100%.
How do you differentiate between emotions, feelings, something that you enjoy doing, and something that you're called to? Because a lot of the time, the thing that you enjoy doing is what you're called to. But what if it's not?
Yeah. I think that's a little bit hard to answer because I think it does feel different for every person. And I think that's what makes each of our calling stories so different is I think the Lord works in different ways, obviously, within each person. But for me, it was totally a feeling of something I had just never had before. And yeah, similar to Levi, like growing up loving sports, loving to run track and to play soccer. But the way that I loved that and the way that I felt as an athlete was still so different from the way that I loved getting to be with students. And it was something that I felt myself doing and realized like I could spend my life doing this. Like I couldn't spend my life playing sports. I couldn't spend my life doing something else that I love or feel passionate about, but I could spend my life impacting students and helping students grow closer to the Lord and take steps in their faith. So I think for me, it's always been this feeling. And there's been a lot of times, even since I got to Indiana Wesleyan, like I would have thought that I followed the Lord's call out here and that was going to be it. I wasn't going to experience anymore. Like, is this actually the right thing? But there have been a lot of moments. I kind of had a difficult internship this last summer at my church that made me like, is the Lord actually calling me to ministry?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't totally looking like I thought it was going to, or like my last internship looked like. And there's been times I've had to go back and like remind myself of the call, remind myself of those feelings that the Lord has given me and like those first passions that I felt, because there's been times I've like gone back and doubted that call, but he has always been so kind and so faithful to remind me of those feelings, remind me of the people in my life that like I could go to and not necessarily need to double check with them, but for them to, my mentor, people to speak life into me and remind me of that call. Because it's hard. Like signing up for vocational ministry there's
so
challenges
hard,
with it. So I don't know. Do you feel like I answered your question?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned briefly like your expectation of what ministry was going to be like, and then kind of what the reality of ministry was. Can you speak to how, you could just go a little bit deeper on what your expectation was? What do you think a lot of expectations that people have, and versus the reality of ministry and how you deal with that?
Yeah, there's so much that comes to mind. I'm trying to pick like what I would want to talk about. I think one is that just because you are called to ministry and you're some sorts of a spiritual leader within your circles, that like you are always close to God and you always have it all together.
Yeah.
And that was something that like immediately the Lord exposed, like that's not a true, that's not truth. That's like lies from the devil. Like you do not always have to have it all put together. There's been even moments where I knew that I was living out my call. I was taking steps towards just being in vocational ministry within my internships the last 2 summers at churches. And there was rough patches within those times where I am actively working in the church, getting to do what I know that the Lord has like put these passions inside of my heart for. But moments that I struggled, that I felt far from him, that I wasn't hearing him, that I was having a hard time picking up my Bible and wanting to read it, having a hard time wanting to talk to him. And it was in those moments where I would doubt my call a little bit, just because I wasn't amounting to sometimes like the poster child that kind of exists in everyone's minds of someone that is a spiritual leader or someone that works in the church. But I think what I've learned is like that's a false reality. Like everyone is going to go through ups and downs in their relationship with the Lord, in their journey of faith. But I learned to like embrace those and not feel like I had to put up this front of just because I'm like know that I'm called to ministry and I am a spiritual leader in my circles that I have to have it all put together. And I think I'm still learning how to be vulnerable and how to tell people about those things, because I think people will sometimes assume that like that you do have it all together and that you don't
100%.
experience any of those times.
Oh man, that's so true. I just remember all the times throughout high school where people would be like, well, you don't struggle, you're perfect, you're a Christian. Or like back home with my friends who aren't Christian, they're like, well, your life is perfect, like you're perfect, everything you do is perfect. And even like in my Christian circles, because I'm studying ministry, like the little offhand comments of like, oh, well, you're perfect because you're doing ministry. And it's like the pressure to be perfect is so like intense, but it's so unhealthy for you and for people who are like who are Christians, who are non-believers, to believe that way about people who are going into ministry. And that's so good to like to shed light on that. But it's so hard to be vulnerable because we want so badly to have holiness and to be that perfect example, but there's just like you just can't, and it's hard.
It brings to mind a lot of the ministers in the New Testament were never boasting about how perfect they were, never talking about how perfect and how they had it all together. I mean, Paul was constantly talking about his weaknesses, the thorn in his side that the Lord wouldn't take away, so that it would amplify and emphasize God's strength and Paul's weaknesses. As well as Peter was making a whole ton of mistakes, and Peter wrote Mark. Mark was just the scribe. And so if you look throughout Mark, it is highlighting Peter's like every misstep. And so that was Peter highlighting Peter's missteps, only to amplify the grace of God. And so if we submit to the pressure of trying to be perfect, we're doing ministry wrong. We actually need to amplify our vulnerabilities so that we can point towards the grace of God. And not to say that we're boasting in our sin or any moral failures that we're actively present in, but to proclaim victories over that. But also say, I'm still human. I still have a default setting of wickedness. And praise be to God that he has called me anyway. And that I sometimes get it right. So it's beautiful reality of ministry.
That is so true. Well, we're going to wrap up, but we like to encourage and just like lift up the person. So I'm going to encourage you and just give you some like, I don't know, words of affirmation. But essentially, I obviously just met you like a month or two ago, but you have a wisdom about you that is so obvious. And you also have a curiosity that I think I and like other people appreciate so much. You're always asking questions in class and you're always wanting to get to the root of like why things are the way they are. And that is a quality that I like really, really admire in you. And it's something that is super cool because you won't let anything just exist without having meaning. And I think you can say that's true for your life too, is that like everything you do has meaning and everything you do is unto the Lord. And your ability to have this long obedience in the correct direction is like so amazing and it's so cool. And I think a lot of people can learn that from you because you are someone who's going to take a risk for the Lord and you are submitting to his will. And that's just something that's super obvious about you, even though like, of course we've only been friends for like a month, but like you submit to his will. And that's just, it's something really cool. So
Thanks, Paula.
Yeah,
Very sweet
of course.
you.
Thank you so much for being on the
Yeah, it was
on the
fun.
podcast.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I would love to read just a prayer really fast. It was
Sure.
from a book from class.
Please, yes.
Please do.
But it has, I think I've read it the past 4 days,
Mhm.
just over and over again in my heart, and I hope that it blesses everyone that's listening. But it says, Father, I want to know thee, but my cowardly heart fears to give up its toys. I cannot part with them without inward bleeding, and I do not try to hide from thee the terror of the parting. I come trembling, but I do come. Please root from my heart all those things which I have cherished so long and which have become a part of my living self, so that thou mayest enter and dwell there without a rival. Then shalt thou make the place of thy feet glorious. Then shall my heart have no need of the sun to shine in it, for thyself will be the light of it, and there shall be no night there.
Wow. That's so good.
That's really good.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate you being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing the prayer. And you did a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah. And
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you guys next week for another episode
Of Coffee and Calling. See ya.
We'd also like to take a second to thank the School of Theology and Ministry at Indiana Wesleyan University for using their facilities. We want to thank the Call Collective for producing all of our podcasts. The Call Collective seeks to equip the next generation of ministry leaders. To find out more information, visit at thecalledcollective.org or check us out on Instagram at The Called Collective. Thanks for listening again and taking time in your day to have the chance to be formed by the conversations we have over coffee. See you guys next week.